Good evening. Call the meeting to order, the budget hearing. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll of the council?
Councilman Fogarty.
Here.
Councilman Lawson. Council Vice President Rego. Councilwoman Souza.
Here.
Council President Rodrick.
Here, the record show all 5 members are present. Please rise for the salute to the flag. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you can start with reading the agenda.
The City Council of East Providence may meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A1, discussion of the job performance character of a person, provided that the person or persons affected may have been notified in advance in writing. City Clerk Employee Agreement.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. According to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A and 1, to convene at this time in executive session. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We will move to executive session briefly. Motion to return to regular session.
Return into regular session and seal the minutes.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza. Seconded by Councilman Fogarty. Return to regular session and seal the minutes of the executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Also, in terms of an announcement for anyone who may be here in the room and you came for a planning board meeting, they are meeting at this time also, but upstairs on the third floor, room 306. Madam Clerk, could you continue with the agenda?
A discussion and possible vote on changes or amendments to the mayor's FY25 proposed budget. The first department is city government, city council, mayor's office, city clerk, law, and canvassing.
So under the city government section, there are questions or comments from the council or from the administration?
President?
Yes, Councilwoman
Um,
Souza.
Can we just make sure that this is open to the public for public?
Sure, it is, has been advertised and is a public session, public meeting.
So just to
Councilman.
kick it off with us, I've got a question on under salaries, we allocated that 26,652, but that was in anticipation of maybe getting a part-timer. If we're not looking at that right now, do we need this in this budget right now? Or does it make sense? Right, but is it something that we think we're gonna create, or do we think we're gonna do it via charter? I'm fine either way. I'm just saying if it's no intent for this budget season to look into it, I'd rather not allocate, but if there is a general sense that yes, we would, then I'm fine with leaving it. I just wanted to put it out there. Because there's two ways we can do it. We could either come up with job description and do it, or we're going to be doing some charter changes probably late next year, early 2026.
I'm not in, again, as you said, Councilman, I could live with this either way. I have no burning desire to add another job today, this budget. And, you know, we do have charter changes that we will be forwarding. We haven't developed a job description or role. And I think as in any budget, but probably this year and the next couple of years, every dollar is important. They always are important, but things get tighter. Grants and other things are drying up. ARPA is drying up. I don't see a burning need, in my opinion. It's not something I would fight if this council wants to do that. I think we have time to work on it.
That's why I'm asking. If you guys feel we are going to do it this year, I'm fine with leaving it. I'm just throwing it out there. If we,
I don't know how the others feel.
I mean,
Councilwoman.
I think it's good to have somebody part-time. I don't mind doing the back leg like I did with the city clerk's position.
Okay.
So I'm good with keeping it if that's the pleasure of the council. If not, I'm certain we could figure something else out. I do agree with the long-term position in the charter, but recognizing that that's a 2-year out.
Okay.
So in the meantime, that would be 2 years not having
Okay.
the part-time being able to.
and we're good with this number, 26.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just wanted to bring that to the table.
Thank you, Councilman.
Anything else?
One thing I wanted to mention, I think we've seen overwhelmingly our public celebrations, brass attack, all the other stuff that goes on in the city. We still got 3,200, but we still got the Live Nation Fund. So I'm fine utilizing the Live Nation until it wears down. But I definitely, there's a lot of good public celebrations to be had. And I think we've seen that the city, it's something they really enjoy. So I'm fine with leaving the 3,200 as is. Other than that, I didn't have anything with our budget other than those two things.
Thank you. Anybody else before we ask members of the public? Do you have any questions? Any other areas in this first group? City Council, Mayor's Office, City Clerk, Law, canvassing? From the council.
So the law, let's see. We're budgeting total purchase professional services, just to refresh my memory. That's how we pay Mike, correct? And then
Correct.
salaries is Robin.
Can you tell me what page you're on, just so I can?
I don't know, I'm online, but it's 350 law expenses by types. I just want to make sure we got the right number to properly fund the department.
So the salary line includes the two staff persons, but it also includes $100,000. Mayor's intent to hire an assistant city solicitor as an employee for the $100,000. That's in the budget. So that's why
As an
that line.
employee,
Yeah, that's why the line, as an employee.
but the charter states it's an appointed position.
It is, but yes. It's an appointed position, subject to council approval, but he can be an employee. It used to be that way before the budget commission came in.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be, no. That's why that money, that increased, excuse me, that's why that line increased by $100,000. And the other line that increased was the healthcare, because two of our employees became eligible for healthcare. They weren't taking it before, but they had a qualifying event, and that's the biggest change in that budget.
What is the line item of assigned for assistant solicitor? That's the
I think
number you're referring to?
it's salary. You'll see the salary line item, fiscal year,
What page is that?
I'm sorry, 26. Fiscal year 24 budget was 131,919. Fiscal year 25 is proposed by the budget is 232,077. Approximately $100,000.
So there are dollars involved no matter what we call it, employee or, I mean, it's got to be funded.
I'm not an employee of the city.
Yeah.
But my services come out of the purchase professional services.
Are we, right now, we just have yourself in the office. Are we close to, I know this isn't your decision, this might be the mayor's office, because this might affect how we deliberate on funding for legal. I understand there have been interviews. Where does that stand, hiring an assistant?
Good evening, Council President, members of the council. That's correct. So we did go through the process, and interview process, as Solicitor Marcelo mentioned. We do need to bring the candidate before this council for appointment. So we've done our interviews and we have a candidate in mind, but we were deep in budget process, so we haven't made the official onboard offer because it has to come through you first.
Okay, so the interviews are completed, recommendation is pending.
Correct.
So we know that'll be coming aboard soon.
So if it was a city hire, would then that person not be eligible for all benefits?
Part-time. Part-time employee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So are we going to
Well,
leave,
well, I also have a question under miscellaneous. Legal services, 250,000. Why is that under legal services? I mean, under miscellaneous and not under the law?
I get where you're referring to. It's not,
900 miscellaneous, there's 250 allocated for legal services. Why isn't that under section 350, law expenses?
It used to be years ago, but the solicitor at the time had said, you pay so much for the solicitor, and so under his contract, let's say he does A, B, C, but then he was doing D, E, F, and so they decided to move that, since that was really beyond the scope of the solicitor, into 900. So you'll see in 900, you'll see more legal, and then you'll also have consulting. Purchase professional services, 2 lines in 900.
So if we move that back to 350 under purchase professional services, we're still covered.
Yes. So just a matter of which department who is in charge.
Tracking. It's a tracking issue.
And it might involve areas beyond the scope of the regular
Like bond
Office,
counsel
right.
was.
Yeah.
Um,
cases that come up.
environmental counsel we've hired for the couple things, the property, some land closings, stuff like that. So yeah.
So again, it seems like it's a tracking thing. It's not changing the amount of money. If we want to put it back, that's fine with me. If we want to put it all under legal, it's semantics.
It's just a, yeah.
Because last year we didn't put anything into it.
From the business concern, is there a preference, Malcolm? Or does it make accounting or auditing different, easier, difficult?
No, I think what had happened before is they were budgeting for the solicitor, say 200,000, but then they were spending, say 400, so it looked like he was always going over. So at the time, we said, well, why don't we put it over here, give it a separate budget so we can track it a little better? So that you have the expenses specifically denoted in the solicitor's contract. Those were the ones that were showing up in legal. So it'd be easier to compare sort of apples to apples. You know, if you're selling land, and you've got all those environmental reviews, that could be dollars. But all of a sudden, you come in one year, it'd be 200, then 600.
So it needs to be shown clearly where the dollars are going, obviously. So it's a matter of, to repeat myself, but tracking, and it isn't just a salary item for a solicitor.
Correct. And, you know, the legal services could charge really, you know, maybe it could be 20, maybe, you know, we're not sure who uses those.
We pay arbitrators fees out of that account as well. But when you have like a labor arbitration, both sides pay generally half the bill. And then we pay- Comes out of that. Any kind of services like.
So is there a preference on the council where in the budget book you want to see this? Either way, it has to be, the amount's not going to change. It has to be tracked. It has to be aligned with an expense.
I'm just trying to wrap my head. So 450 in legal purchases between 350 and 900. Another 232 for salaries, and that includes an assistant solicitor. Okay. And 121 for benefits. How many people are receiving benefits in that office?
Currently none, but the new fiscal year, there'll be at 2.5, two.
Two.
The solicitor, if you're saying they're gonna become a city employee, the person, he or she would become eligible for benefits. Well, now, quote unquote, employee and not.
I don't think we pay benefits for part-time employees.
Right. So, but 2 employees, 60,000 worth of benefits each?
Healthcare.
60,000 per individual?
If it's a family, it could be 20-some thousand.
Okay, 20 each. That's only 40,000. You guys are budgeting 121,000.
That's why.
What is that benefit? I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Who's the 3?
I believe we did budget for the assistant city solicitor to receive benefits.
But he's saying we're not giving benefits to a part-timer.
We don't give it to part-time.
We don't, but I don't know for sure whether or not
That's going to be.
A
in the
person has
contract.
not been hired yet
Okay.
who would be part-time or full-time, so I don't know that decision.
But if it's precedent that we do not offer benefits for part-timers, then it should end there, right? There won't be,
I don't think they can confirm that it's going to be a part-time person. It may very well be a full-time person.
oh, so you're saying
The
it might be a
benefits are there
full-time?
in the event that they make it a full-time.
The position was posted as a full-time position, so we do have to budget. If you give me a moment, I can look into our workforce plan. It is budgeted as, the position was posted as full-time, and therefore whenever we do any kind of position, we don't know if the person's going to come in and request single or family. So we always go the route by putting in a family amount, so we have that funds, because we can't ask them in the process, well, will you be taking a full family healthcare or single? So therefore, we budget in the quote, quote, worst case scenario with a family budget.
Right, you have to assume the highest and maybe we'll get the lower
Correct.
number. But was the former assistant solicitor part-time or full-time?
Dylan?
I don't know.
So this might be a change?
Doesn't the charter say a solicitor and assistant city solicitor? So now we're switching the charter?
Nothing in the charter prevents you from being an employee.
But I'm just saying, but
So we're still hiring an
Still
assistant?
hiring a solicitor. The title is the same. It's the status.
Yeah.
The status has changed.
So why wouldn't we stay consistent? Either they're both subcontractors or they're both employees.
we've been doing this now for, this is the second term of the mayor form of government. And now all of a sudden, halfway through the second term, the ball is being changed on us.
I think the mayor,
Solicitor didn't change.
I can't speak for,
It's here. I'll let you-
no, go, I'm sorry, yeah.
If Dylan Conley was still assistant city solicitor, we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't have this increase in this budget line.
I won't speak for the mayor, but I think the mayor's idea was that he wanted someone here more regularly, as an employee, and that's why he budgeted for that. And thought it might be more efficient. That's the mayor's choice, not mine.
How much is the most expensive family plan? 22? So that's 44,000. Why are we at 121,000? Even if you added a third, that's only 66. And you guys are doubling up on that.
Previous years, they were actually benefits in the budget also. Okay, so they would just benefit, the total benefits.
That's longevity, other
Okay.
things, yeah.
Councilman, now I can see what you're talking about. So the 44,000 under health insurance, that's 44,000. That's assuming $22,000 for each employee for full family health care. So that's what we have to assume. The 122,000 that you're referring to is the regular salaries line. That's the current salary line. The 44,000 is reflective of the health insurance, if you look on the screen.
And that 44 is the total potential.
It's about 22,000 for family health care for the city, correct? It's about. And then the regular salaries line, Kayla, if you go up to, that's your actual salaries.
So in theory, we're going,
And then the proposed, Kayla, if you could pull the proposed column to the side. Right there.
So is the potential recommendation that this position could be full-time?
It could be full-time. It was
Oh,
posted
where-
as
who-
full-time, but it
Okay.
could very well be, it depends on the situation of the candidate that would come in. If it was a situation similar to Mr. Conley's, then Mr. Conley was a full-time, so he worked for multiple municipalities, and he was an attorney with the law firm, but then he was part-time with us.
The job was advertised as full-time. So I would assume that the candidates are expecting full-time status. I would guess. But if they applied for a job and it was
Right.
set at full-time, I mean, it can always be lowered, I guess. You know, always better to be on the safe side and.
Correct.
But I understand the money has to be in the budget if it does go. Oh.
Going from a $60,000 job to $100,000. Dylan Building's about 60 or 70,000.
I think it's more than that. It's more than that. Yeah, it's more than that.
Maybe that was just.
On your council stuff, but yeah, he when he did stuff for my office, that comes out of that.
Just looking at the side.
Yes, Council Vice President. When I've talked with the law department and worked with our legal secretary on payments, when we put this posting together, it was with the idea that there would actually be savings to the city by doing this full-time position. Even if it was part-time or full-time, there would be still savings to the city based on the cost for Mr. Conley or for the
For instance,
previous
I'm sorry.
assistant city solicitor.
Just an example, Mr. Connolly's office did prosecutions for the city. I don't do prosecutions for the city, so the idea is to get these new employee to do the prosecutions as an employee of the city. So we charging us by the hour to do that.
So the plan it may be or is that rather than getting unexpected outside legal bills or outside cases, we would have 2 full-time people and we're not going to, one full-time person.
I'm not full-time.
Okay, that's right. You're not. You seem to be.
I seem to be, yes. I do get paid, so I'm not complaining, but I'm
So the question to the council is, and I don't know if this is our decision or if this is management decision, do we have a full-time or a part-time solicitor, assistant? Is that even our call by charter? We fund it,
the budget issue.
the budget issue. So what is the pleasure of the council? Do we-
Trying to see. So you're gonna hire somebody 40 hours a week, they're gonna sit here in City Hall, as opposed to us just paying like we have been all along. So again, I don't know if we have the power.
But that amount that we were paying was,
You paid more than,
we paid more than,
you paid more than $100,000 for.
so that seems clear that we paid more than the 100. Why is that?
You always have to pay. It's not-
Okay, so what is our direction to the budget process?
I'd like to move on to city clerk. If there's no other questions.
No, that's it.
Okay, Councilwoman, thank you.
So in the city clerk's budget, I'd like to underline, so I know, and I guess Malcolm can correct me, or the secretary, the chief of staff, the salaries across the board for all departments, were department heads given a 2% raise this year in the budget? Either of you? Thank you. Is that factored into the?
No, I believe that's.
Do we know which departments? Can that be shared with the? Thank you.
Malcolm, when you say the majority did not what? Did not get anything? Did not get the 2?
Got it here.
But 0, okay.
The department.
Department heads, so. So most department heads received 0% increase.
I think 2 of them were the lowest.
And they received the 2. And then I know in the courts, the judges all received an additional pay, an increase in pay. Is that correct? Is there a way to break that down on the? About $600 increase across the board for,
600.
right, so can we confirm what the total is and what is that? $600. Okay, thank you.
You see under the adjustment column under court pay, it says $602. That's the adjustment that happened split evenly between the judges.
And the court bailiff? Or just the judges?
I don't think the court bailiff experienced that increase in this budget.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to add a 2% to our city clerks. But Mike left.
Yeah, solicitor had to run upstairs to the other meeting, part of having one attorney, but he'll be back. He's at the planning board. Yes, Director.
Sorry, so I can answer some of the questions. So when we brought in a new hire, for instance, our IT department was a new hire, so that person wasn't brought in and budgeted for an additional 2% here. When there were requests for particular department heads in terms of the 2% increase, yes, so police and fire, they have their own contracts, I believe, so that wasn't included, but others did receive, in fact, the 2%. But if they were a new hire just coming on board, that was not added to their budget coming in, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you.
In the clerk, I believe, Lisa.
I think you did, right? And we had a conversation, and I think the 2% has been added to the clerk in this budget.
Can we go into the regular salary and break it down? Please. That one, no. Okay.
That was the direct.
Yes, I had sent that in to the police to include, right?
Right.
So I think that should be there.
Just wanted to make sure.
Sure. No, that's good that you asked.
Right, because it's not clear to know, because
Doesn't break
salary just
down,
says
yeah.
salary, so it's, it's everybody in the department's salary, but who got a raise, who didn't get a raise, who gets a bonus. And to be fair, we've received the original, the amended. There's a lot of, a few changes that have gone on through this process, so following it meticulously is not the easiest thing to do. But as long as the clerk's 2% is in the budget for that office for the fiscal year coming up, then that answers my question. I just wanted
Yep, thank you.
that was taken care of. And I don't believe I have any further questions in that department.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Other questions between city council to canvassing before I ask public? Council, you can come back, of course, and add something.
So my only thing with canvassing is it looks like we're pretty much budgeting the same as last year. I know we're in a non-election year, so I don't understand why we need to budget the same as the previous year since the workload is not the same. So that was a question that I had with that. Doesn't, when we look back to non-election years,
Well, technically, the election.
oh yeah, that's, you make a good
General
point.
election.
So then we had a sir, no, because we had the primary also. Hmm. In 23, it's budget. Just an election. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that wants to raise a question or comment in that first section that's listed under city government? We can move on to city operations. Council can always come back at any time with questions. So the council, anyone want to start off with finance controls and accounts, tax collection, et cetera, as you see on the agenda? Might ask the finance director if you could stay at the podium, please. And my question is general. Are you anticipating any major increases? Did you have to add from last year?
No, I think in the assessment, that went from, because we had a reval.
Malcolm, in Department 2070, the tax collection, what is the property that requires $10,000 line item expense? What property are you looking to purchase or maintain that requires $10,000? It was 10,024, and there was only half year 450. The 2 previous years, they were under 1,000.
Now, I think that's in the budget, so that kind of rolls up into the category when the title's not exactly accurate. So if you looked at, you see the 10,000, I think it's probably the 8 and the 2, which is repair and maintenance. So technology software. The 10,000. 2,000.
What technology software that went up in the last 2 years from under $1,000? Is it something that we'll be using annually? Is it just for the reval?
270 is tax for.
Okay, so then no.
Because I know the software is more than, bigger budget in here. Here for the software. They got for the tax QDS.
All right, so that's a fixed fee that we will expect to see annually as part of the software. What's the name of the software?
So QDS, tax collection software. We've got Harris, so we have
That's the purchase of professional service. And under the professional services, that search and title, is that when we're going for the tax sale annually? When we're doing those, okay. And then the rest of the funds, is that all associated with going for tax sale?
Um,
The Rossi Collection Commission, Brinks?
we send for, say, motor vehicles and maybe tangibles. And, so and then we just have people mostly pick up the trash on a daily basis, so that when you put me those, just a mailing machine. And then here you have this tax sale, there's also revenue. We haven't had a tax sale in 3 years, I believe. And
This year?
Right.
Share with me.
right.
Yep.
Previously, you would see them previously.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Other members, question on finance, tax, collection or assessment? Moving to human resources. Director Perry, anything of note that we should know, or any significant increase or decrease, or? I know a lot of us have already asked these questions. We've had a couple other hearings but we're just trying to finalize things.
The two increases are for our ADP fees, unfortunately, ADP. We are past the point where we were getting discounts from the initial integration of ADP, I believe in 2018. Additionally, in years when we have contract negotiations, it often requires to increase the number of payrolls. So if we have 26 payrolls, we may have to on an off week run payroll. We actually get paid, we get charged every time we run payroll. So we are looking at where we were, the halfway mark. We determined that with the help of Malcolm, that increase would cover us for the next year. So ADP is going up. ADP is our employee organization system that we use to do payroll, to do time and attendance, to do recruiting. It does a lot of the functions that we have. It's our biggest budget.
And you said there was another area?
Yes, I asked for a increase to dues and fees. Two members of the HR department are not members of SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management. And I wanted them to have membership so that they would have access to our payroll and our benefits coordinator. So they would have access to all of the resources from SHRM, including all the professional knowledge and access to some courseware.
Thank you. Anybody else? Question on HR? Moving on to affirmative action, EEOC, question? Yes, Council VP.
It's been talked about. That was. It's been. See. Here's what talked about 2 meetings ago. It's what this was talked about 2 meetings ago. Homer is doing one of his 25 jobs around this building. throughout the city. This is closed. Yeah. We can have all the fundraisers, we can have all the street meetings, but if we don't give the person the hammer and nails to do his job properly, then we're just playing dress up. So I believe put this part-time to 26,000. It's my proposal, as I said 2 meetings ago.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Director, do you have anything to add in terms of significant, either an increase or decrease that you've proposed?
No, sir. I think, sitting down with Mayor Malcolm and staff, I felt like the budget was quite fair, but I am grateful. Thank you for recognizing the work that I do every day here in the city.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Elma. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate that.
On the next four areas, anybody in the council? I know we did speak at length last couple of meetings ago, I think, about IT, but there's information technology, miscellaneous, debt service, capital. I think at the last hearing or a couple of hearings ago, Mr. Zambrano from IT said they were pretty well funded the way that he felt was appropriate. I don't know if anyone has any changes to that. Or we open it to public comment and anything from council members? Anyone here that would either city employee, department head, member of the public, anyone who wants to mention anything on any of these areas under city operations? Hearing none, let's move on. Community development, planning and economic development. I know there's a planning board meeting elsewhere in City Hall tonight. Comments from the council? Is there anyone here from planning, or are they all upstairs? Oh, yes. Come on up, please. Thank you. Didn't see you back there. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council.
Anything of significance that you need to tell us?
No, I think our budget is pretty modest, just a 4.9% increase, mostly just natural increases to salary and benefits, no new line item, no capital improvement requests either when we get to that.
You have a staff opening still?
We do. Our senior planner position that was formerly occupied by Johanna Walczak. This position, we did have someone who we selected for the position a few months ago. They ended up taking another position elsewhere. So we had to go out, advertise for that again, interview scheduled next week.
Are there applicants? Why I'm asking is I'm wondering how the department is doing in the interim, how critical that this position is to fill.
It is definitely a need we have. You know, it's not just a want for us. You know, it's a position that manages several grant-funded projects, like a $750,000 USDA grant in low-income areas of the city. It's a multifaceted grant too. Isn't just tree planting. It's education component, youth workforce component with that, as well as other grant-funded. So it's something that we really feel the lack of that position.
You have interviews scheduled. Do you have more than one applicant?
We do. I think 6 or so, if I'm not mistaken.
So basically, he has to come to that. So when you. Combined two.
We have, yeah, there's been a good amount of time that we've been short.
How much time would a send them off to state? How much time spend?
It really varies depending on if something's due. It can be almost all of someone's time if there's a big grant with a deadline coming up, or it can be significantly less than that. It's something that's well worth the effort. Over the past 4 years, our department has successfully applied for about over $19 million in grant funding, not counting the annual community development block grant money we get. So, and for example, if you look at Johanna Walzak's position, I mean, she was personally responsible for bringing a lot of grant money into the city, which has been very beneficial revenue-wise.
So a hypothetical situation. Things happen to change. If the winds happen to change. If the winds happen to change, excuse me, winds happen to change in a way in Washington over the next couple of months, years, and there's less grants being out there, would you say that you would need the additional person? Again, it's a hypothetical situation, so there's a lot of variables. Sort of.
I would say we definitely would still need this level over the next few years because of the management of the grant projects that we recently received. You know, maybe 5 years from now, if things dry up at the federal level, that would be a different story. But for now, we're sometimes applying for the grant and getting it's the easy part, and managing it, implementing it takes a lot more resources, and that's the stage that we are in now with a lot of these.
Do we still have any grant-funded employees for the next fiscal year?
No. We had Melissa Spur, who was paid for with ARPA funds. She's no longer with the city now. With the exception of our community development block grant, community development division head who's funded through CDBG funds.
Okay. And can you just speak to what software the department is using? And that has, because this is another department that has software and repair and maintenance of equipment that are higher line items than the previous years.
Yeah, some of the things we use here are Reich project management software, Implan software, which is sort of an economic development software that we often use for applications and things like that. Adobe, Esri for GIS mapping, and Civic Plus, which I believe is another economic development related software.
Is everybody in your department capable of writing a grant, or do you have specific planners who are qualified to do that? Have taken extra?
Everyone does in our office, sometimes depending on the topic, but it is something everyone puts on.
Right. Is that a requirement as part of the hire to have grant writing experience?
Yeah, it is. I think it is in the job description. It is something that would we would look for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Excuse me, Keith. Do you have a reason why you think there's nobody pounding the door down to be a city planner?
Well, one of the reasons that the state has found is that University of Rhode Island did away with their planning program a while ago, which is where a number of people in our office graduated from. But for our recent senior planner position, when we advertised again, we did get a good amount of applications. I think we got 9 altogether, which was a lot better than a few months ago. But like some other professions, there is a shortage in this area of qualified people, but we're pretty happy with the turnout we got this time.
Thank you.
Anyone here in the chambers like to ask a question of planning? Hearing none, move on to community services. Areas of recreation, Pierce Stadium, Carousel, Library, Senior Center. Open it up to the council first.
Fair Stadium, you mentioned, Council President, you mentioned Fair Stadium.
Yes, let's hear.
Appreciating the work being done over there. And or more work needed for the fencing. I'm sure that our management is aware of the safety behind the dugouts, and the irrigation's going well. I know, Council President, you've been over there. I've been first over there now because I've decided to become part of the East Providence Central Little League again. After 30 years of being there, I'm going back with the grandchildren, so I'm a little concerned about the fencing and the backstops and such. And sure, Mr. Boyd.
And I know we're glad to have you back at Little League. I've been told that you're moving a little slower, but you're still there. So that's good.
Hey, I was on your side until then. No, go ahead, Dan. Thanks.
That was a statement, didn't need an answer. But seriously, thank you. And most of this council, if not all, actually, we are concerned with the other jewel of the city. We all know about the Carousel, but the Pierce Stadium is the other jewel of this city. And I, at every turn that I can, try to dispel rumors that the complex is being neglected. It was the very first thing I did when I was elected my first term was to walk the complex with the new mayor at the time and point out those fences that you talk about that were very dangerous. And since then, things have really improved with more to come. But let's ask the director, DPW, if you can kind of give us a quick summary and how is this budget moving with Pierce?
I mean, if you've been by Pierce recently and looked at the turf, it looks phenomenal. Our park staff are doing a great job of maintaining, maintaining the facility. We've installed bleachers throughout the complex in various locations. Bathroom was recently installed. Composting toilet was recently installed about 2 weeks ago, adjacent to Amaral and Roderick's fields. Both irrigation systems are up and running. Amaral was just completed last week, and the batting cages, the batting cages were recently, cement was recently poured surrounding those. We're waiting on a few loads of stone dust, and the structure itself will be installed within the next week or two. And then just an update on the fencing. We just got approval for the replacement of the backstops for the 2 fields, Roderick's and Amaral. So those will be completely replaced. We'll remove the existing fabric, repaint the poles, and install brand new fabric on the existing poles.
And I know Councilwoman Souza and I, we walked there one day, and again, I'm compelled to dispel some of the things that we hear about we have that beautiful new high school now, so they're not using Pierce Field anymore. It's so far from the truth. Day we were there, and another day that I was there, football stadium was in use with the younger programs in the city. The big baseball stadium had game after game after game. The Little League fields had fall ball teams playing. The basketball courts had their league going. And the general grassy areas just had people enjoying it and moving around. And of course, the splash pad had been shut off finally. The place, and there were no parking spaces that day. I pulled in, and of course, needing the exercise was fine. I parked out on Lion Avenue, but there were.
Say, excuse me, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, you heard me.
Say something about exercise?
Yes.
Council President?
We're trying. So Pierce Stadium Complex is in probably more use than ever, and we're getting things done there. Is the budget adequate for moving forward?
Yeah, if you recall, Council President, last year we increased the budget significantly for on the fertilization end. Fertilization costs have a little bit; they've kind of teetered out. So you really don't see an increase here because we feel comfortable with the budget as it is to continue to maintain that complex.
Okay, enough about Pierce Stadium. Thank you, Councilman.
One other thing,
yes.
Dan. How is Hull Street coming along? Because after you and I have talked, the contractors are still being held accountable, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
There are catch basin drains that have not been installed. That is the reason why the field has water on it. The catch basin drains have not been installed. They've been on back order. So crushed stone base with piping is all there. It's just draining a lot slower than it would if it had actual basin. So hopefully in the next week or two they will be in, and we will not see standing water on that field.
That was a question mostly for the budget. That's not coming out of our pocket, right?
No. That's all part of the original contract.
Right.
There's no.
I heard rumors it was, and I just wanted to squash anything on record that the contractors are accountable for what's happening at
For the
Hull
record,
Street.
the contractor has not even been.
Thank you.
Project's not complete.
Dan, just a quick follow-up on that field specifically.
Hull Street.
Yeah. Is the electrician, because I know that they were finishing up the electrical work, were they able to put in an electrical outlet, like drop in like outlets or around the area?
There are no like around the field area.
Mm.
No, there are no electrical outlets around the field area.
No, I know. It was an ask. I had seen the person there, and he said it wasn't an ask of them. And I had spoken to the mayor about it, and he said that it could be done if, we thought it was a good idea. So I'm just wondering if that conversation had come up between you and the mayor.
Certainly can be added. It's just something we'd have to go up to
Price out.
separately for.
Okay.
But he upgraded the electrical panel at that facility,
Right.
For future expansion if we had to. The playground area or anywhere else. So there's certainly room in that panel if we did want to do
To
that.
add
But it's certainly not part or was not part of any of the scope.
the agreement. Okay. Thank you.
Council Vice President, please.
Mr. Borges. What is the status of the track? The walking track.
Yeah, so we've recently we contracted with Parin, who teamed up with Invictus, who is a professional turf designer. They provided us with several concepts to widen the track, as well as reconfigure some items in the stadium. So those alternatives have been provided to the city. We have to essentially select one and then go out to request a formal proposal from them to actually do the design of that facility. Keep in mind there is $2 million in grant funding to complete that project that the city received.
Since the middle school had a track field, there's a proposal in score envision it being near the scoreboard.
I believe
that
that
something
that was a
that could be-
request from the middle school, and I believe that is being incorporated as part of this design.
And then the important city.
Riverside Rec. Oh. Sorry, I had them confused.
No, yeah,
1 and 4.
yeah. How we, first of all, the lights look good. Where are we with that, and when do you think what's and everything?
So we have preliminary pricing from the contractor for the courts. I don't know if I should provide that cost because we've only gotten one price, and in an effort to remain,
I'm just looking at a projected time.
I think we're going to have some budget constraints with that. I think the cost of those resurfacing those courts is going to come in much higher than what we have allocated, but I can't tell you that for certain yet.
Tell me now.
I'd be happy to get you that when we have all the information together and create a level playing field for all the bidders.
So Senator now Brito started this project. Long overdue, many years even before us. There's that in Vaughan Field, the fields in the northern end of the city have been affected from the neglect, and not on your part. Don't take this personally, but the neglect started Senator Brito, Councilman Brito started to change it. Continue this term, make sure that those fields, that fields, Riverside Rec, so.
Yep. I mean,
it's gonna take, Glen Line and Bourne are gonna be snuffed.
The ball field at Glen Lyon looks fantastic right now. We had some electrical issues with the irrigation system, some pump related issues that didn't give us the ability to push water out to that main field. So the grass there does not look great, but we've aerated it and top dressed it and overseeded it. We're going to put some turf blankets down once EPYSA is done utilizing that, and hopefully we'll have some nice turf come the spring.
And hopefully the security gate would
Yeah, I believe there was one strand that was removed.
That's all I had to do. Some notes.
I can go put that back tomorrow.
So I noticed that yesterday.
I'd like to ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to, make sure you tell the staff that too. That work at PS is phenomenal. I really appreciate the public works department. Thank you.
Thank you. They work really hard to make everything look great.
Likewise, I'd like to ask the Recreation Director, Diane Sullivan, if you want to come forward, and I don't think any of us have any major issues, but want to give you an opportunity to, first of all, thank you for all the great programming through the year and working, I know, as you do with DPW, and it's a team, but anything significant budget-wise to report?
Microphone, I think Patricia's trying to tell you, but I'll just speak it out.
Hi, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a pretty boring. Everything has stayed the same as last year with the exception of increase in temporary salaries. We are trying to keep pace with the minimum wage, which will be going up again as of January 2025, so.
Any other questions? Council Vice President, I think.
I was stopped at a store the other day, and again, I even talked to the officials of the league officials, and this was just a parent talking to me, and the local leagues got preference over outside leagues. Excuse me. Correct? Like,
Yes,
like-
you get preference, city league.
So, for instance, take Kimberly Ann Rock or Glen Rock. If Rumford Little League has that field, and is there a check and balance that checking with Rumford Little League as to if they're not going to use the field before it gets rented out. I know we put all that together so that no outside person could control it themselves. That was the case before, but this person made me believe that one of the Rumford teams got bumped in fall ball. So just trying to.
I can speak to that situation. So there was one instance where there was an event that was planned at Kimberly Rock, had been planned 2 weeks in advance. Rumford Little League had not provided us the dates of some of their practices. So unfortunately, they came to us a few days before, wanted to utilize the fields, but we had already rented it out 2 weeks prior. So we work very closely with the Little Leagues, EPYSA, all the organizations. They get preference, and what we typically request of them is to provide us a schedule up front so that we can block the days off in the calendar.
I
So
knew there had to be a reason. That's why I was asking the question.
yeah,
because,
I can assure you we
I
provide
assured
preference
this
to all of
person
the-
that they weren't getting bumped through the year because I would have heard about it.
They came to us at the 11th hour, and
I
unfortunately,
knew they had to. Again, that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
And to add to that, Councilman Rigo, we also work very closely with the leagues, and they're very good about working with releasing fields. If they're not going to use it, there might be a time when they don't need a practice schedule, and so they'll release it for another league or a private resident wanting to use it for a special occasion or something.
Thank you. Anyone here in the chambers would like to speak on behalf of or ask a question or comment about recreation or parks? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you, Director Sullivan.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Carousel Library, Senior Center. Comments from the council?
I just had a question.
Yes,
On the part-time and temporary pay. How many do we have currently for the carousel for part-time or temporary pay workers?
Tracy Johnson is approaching the podium and may have that answer.
Good evening. One full-time me and 13 part-timers. That also includes the maintenance caretaker,
Are those are seasonal or year-round?
seasonal. I have one part-timer that stays on and assists South and Recreation.
All right, that was my only question.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you. Other questions on library, senior center? Hearing none, I'll try to move this along. Any comments from those here? I know the directors are here of the senior center, library, and to answer any questions.
Senior Center's doing phenomenal.
Great programs. I was there the other day with some nice programming. Councilman?
You guys are hanging out?
Yeah, I'm a member. I'm of age.
It's got a membership.
I'm a member. I'm of age.
No, it wasn't the aerobics. It was a cooking class.
Great program.
Is that why they need the dining
Blood
room
pressure.
manager?
Veterans. What else you want?
To settle everybody?
Let's move on.
Aerobics class?
Zumba.
Thank you to those directors and the employees. Next section is Public Works. We did hear a little bit from Public Works Director.
I
but-
got one question. 2.3 million for road and sidewalks. How did we come up with that number, and what are we doing this in-house? Are we contracting out? Is that 2.3 million worth of cement? Just trying to figure out how we got to that number and what the game plan is.
You're referring to the capital.
Capital part of this.
So the 2.3 million is roughly the number that will get us to complete all of the really terrible roads in the city, subject to them being cleaned and lined with the water main project that's currently out to bid. So that's the approximate number. We also wanted to allocate additional funds above what the state was potentially going to give the city so the city has to have a required matching amount to
Hmm.
the money that the governor has in the municipal road and bridge program. So we knew the last few years that municipalities have not had money set aside, so we thought it'd be smart to allocate additional funds to have, additional matching funds to get more of that money from the state, capitalize on, getting roads paved for free, essentially.
Okay. So how much of this would you say is more road centric as opposed to sidewalks?
So the roadway is all roads, it's asphalt. If you're looking at sidewalk improvements, we typically bid that separately, and that was funded separately over the last few capital requests. There was $1 million allocated just strictly sidewalk improvements, and that went out to bid. That was bid separately. It's a whole different bidding process.
So 2.3 strictly roads. Okay.
What is can I just ask, what is the anticipated match?
So the city's slated to receive around $200,000 from the state, and I don't know the match percentage off the top of my head. I believe it's like 25.
You said the one streets.
How many streets? I couldn't tell you how many streets. I mean, I could get you the list tomorrow, and certainly we provided that to the council before, but I can certainly get it.
Whole Piercefield area,
Yeah, all essentially Ward 2.
all in the center of the
It's,
city.
it's the first, second, third street, the main part of the city that has not been cleaned and lined, water main cleaned and lining. So we want to complete that work, cut into the road, patch it, and then pave everything and be completely done.
How many years will 2.3 cover? Because we can't do it all at once, obviously.
We could spend that all in 1 year if the cleaning and lining gets completed. $2 million is not a lot when it comes to paving.
Okay.
It's not a lot of money.
And what's our contract with Hot Mix? Okay.
So we have, I believe, 1 more year, or it may be ending this year with the ability to extend for 1 additional year.
And that's where this funding will come in.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions on any of these other areas of departments, engineering, highway, parks, streetlights, refuse, disposal, public buildings, central garage? And again, a reminder to the public, we have had hearings in these areas. Many of us, if not all, have met individually here at City Hall with administration and department heads, so this is not our first look at this. Any other comments? Those here tonight in those areas? Seeing none, let's move on. Thank you, Director. Move on to public safety. Always the heart and soul of most communities, keeping us safe. Police Department, Animal Shelter, Harbor Master, Fire Department, Public Safety, Communications. Police Chief is here. Chief, do you have anything of significance to?
And then the one
Let us
question I'm going to have for you, Chief, is do we need the budget for 98 positions if we think we're only going to get to maybe 90?
We're actually budgeted for 95 sworn. Those other positions are, they also include our clerks. But when we budget for our sworn personnel, sometimes we budget half year, less than a half year because the way the academies fall. So we're going to get next academy starts in January. We wouldn't get those folks till July. That's why there's that kind of looks a little odd.
So you said we're at about 84 now?
Correct.
And realistically, do you think you can get up to 94?
We did in 2022, 2023, we put on like 20 people. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that we can get there with the combination of laterals and entry level folks.
Okay. You know, just from our viewpoint, the concern is if we're allocating money and we're not going to be able to fill them, that's on the taxpayer.
Oh, I
So-
completely understand that. We did drop it last fiscal year with
Right.
97. We did drop it down a couple. And I think that, I think we can get there.
We had 79 or 84.
We're at 84 on the books, but we
Seventy.
have a couple people deployed. Right now, technically, that we have, working each and every day, we're at 79. But with deployments and a couple other issues going on, we're at a little less than 84.
Yeah, I thought that 70 was stuck in.
But the deployments, we cannot, not consider them. They have to remain on the books by law. Right, right.
Right. So we're gonna, as I mentioned last week, it's a nationwide issue with hiring law enforcement positions. But we're very, very active. We're going to a very large career fair tomorrow at a college in Massachusetts. We're working at it.
Please give thanks to the officers involved in the DV recently. It sounds like it was outstanding the way your men handled it.
You did a great job.
So, next police, you have one or two in the academy.
We have 3 right now in the academy. Correct.
Next municipal academy starting February or
January. Well, we're doing background checks right now. So we're going to be making, unfortunately, our applicant pool is only 5 people for the next academy class. So we're doing background checks on those folks and we'll be making some decisions in the next couple of weeks.
I saw somewhere online I was going to fit. You know, the lateral pay when lateral transfer payments in the 75. I'm seeing some cities.
There's,
It's gonna, that's a concern to me. Is it a concern to me?
we're in this area, we're pretty much on the higher end. I've seen some very, very, very high numbers out west. But in this area, we're pretty competitive when it comes to the lateral issue.
What? You see the usual amount of.
I see, so last fiscal year, we had quite a few. I see, yeah, probably about 4 or 5 this coming fiscal year. Right in that ballpark.
So 70. So we lose.
Right. Right now, we have 4 in the pipeline. We have 3 in the academy. We have 1 waiver candidate that's coming from Baltimore, Maryland. He's wrapping up his training. And we also have, in addition to the 5 we're looking at for the entry-level academy, we also have another 5 laterals that apply. We're also doing background checks. So we have a separate group we're looking at also. And it's pretty much open enrollment. Our police app, our place where folks go to apply, is opening tonight, 12:01 for the next round. So all the way through January.
Anyone else here? Anyone here in the room that would comment on the police budget? Hearing none. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions on these other areas before we get to the fire department? Is animal shelter, harbor master?
Do we
Yes.
have we hired, I know we were looking for an officer, an animal control officer. Did we officially get one?
Yes, we have a animal control supervisor,
Mhm.
a newly hired animal control supervisor, and a full-time animal control officer. We are facing some challenges with hiring the part-time pound keepers. Got a couple that didn't work out, didn't last very long. But we do have a supervisor in place and a full-time animal control officer.
Do, how many of the part-time positions are you looking for
I think we're
or
looking
budgeted for it?
2. I'd have to double check. On the budget. Second?
It's about 56,000, so are there 2 part-time?
Yeah, that would be.
Would that be
roughly
2 part-time?
Yeah.
Is there anybody, I know a while back, we spoke about having a need to have somebody on off hours. I mean, as you're, I'm sure aware, like most of the residents, the uptick of coyotes throughout the community has been increased. And I know in the last 2 weeks here in the center of the city, there's 2 to 3 that are consistently at Hall Street Park. Last night around 11 o'clock, one was walking down South Broadway in Grosvenor. At that intersection, a lot of animals are, pets, and people walk their animals in this area, and it has become a real unnerving situation for a lot of our residents, especially since that's in a school area with this park. What are we doing, or what can we do with our animal control division to have accessibility where a resident can call when they've spotted and that there's an action?
So regarding the scheduling,
Mhm.
prior to the issues hiring, we had 7 daily coverage during the day, not at night.
Right.
And that's the goal again, to have someone weekends that can respond. When it comes to evening calls, we don't have animal control coverage at night. I think that's pretty much similar in most towns. Unless, and we've had some trainings on this in the past. I know council several years ago held an informational session on coyotes. And unless they're acting overly aggressive or clearly have an issue, there's not much we can do that can be done. We've had requests through the years. I know there was a push to lower the population, and we were in that meeting we had. I remember them saying, like, if you were to do something like that, you'd end up with more coyotes. You would have another pack come in, take over, and they would, it would end up a net positive. So as far as I know, there's really not a whole heck of a lot we can do with coyotes, unless, of course, they're, sick or, rabid, or a police officer would absolutely respond in that situation.
So no way of getting somebody to be in part-time in the evening hours to be able to respond to
We-
something like that?
We can't get part-time during the day right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're having a hard time hiring. I mean, that's, if we get the candidates and, that's
They would
something
be,
we can look at, absolutely.
but they would be more, they would be pound keepers, not necessarily the pound officer or a supervisor. I'm looking for somebody who's trained to be able to respond.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to.
Because those pack animals aren't out during the day, typically.
Although I've seen some, I did hear the call not too long ago at Hall Street. That was like 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it was,
Starting to get
yeah,
dark,
it
but
was
not
really early. They were.
Yeah. We did hear that one.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean,
right.
maybe since we do have 2 persons working in that department, maybe they can come up with a plan to figure out how to address that situation in that area. We'll leave it to, I don't know.
with the scheduling, you mean? Or,
No, with just the situation in general. I mean, they're coming back on a daily basis throughout the day and evening. So I'm not an animal, officer. So I don't know. Maybe there are things that they can employ that can deter them from coming back to that area, or
we
they
can
can
have that
track it
discussion.
to figure out where they're coming from and try to fix that.
I don't know if they have those capabilities.
Yeah.
Animal control, I don't know if that's something DEM can do. But yeah, there
Yeah.
are strict guidelines with it.
Right, I'm sure, but somebody must be able to do something. I mean, that's a school. I'd hate for there to be a situation there and then us knowing that a situation, not have done something proactively. So I'm just asking, can we be proactive, the city with the state, to get something done over there to help the community?
Absolutely speak with the animal control officers, see if they can,
Appreciate that.
get information on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Chief. Fire Chief, if you are available, you can come on up. You have anything of significance to inform us about the budget?
Not since last time. It's the same.
Same as last report? Questions?
So, let me bring it up. With these grant-funded positions, do we need this much money in overtime?
So actually, this budget year, I did not add the 3.5% pay increase to salary raise for this year. And I reduced overtime on the training side.
So the salaries went up by about 400K, maybe a little less. And you're saying that's not including the 3.5 pay bump by contract? So what would that number be? 14,211,990? That's without the 3.5. What's that number with the 3.5?
Which number are you looking at?
750 under salaries, fire department, department expenses by type. It says you're proposing fiscal year 25, 14,211,990 in salaries, but you're saying that doesn't account for a 3.5 pay increase by contract.
No, salaries is accounted for overtime. Remember, salaries go up 3.5%, overtime goes up.
Right, but, okay, so let me rephrase my question. Do we need this much money allocated towards overtime if we have 12 new positions? What is the purpose of the new positions? Is it to fill in sick calls and vacations?
New positions are to create 3 new positions in fire suppression, which is 1 in each ladder.
The marshal,
One
yeah.
before a fifth company.
Okay,
The safety on the fire. Yes, they will not backfill overtime, so will they be plugging holes for overtime? They will. But you're only looking at 3. No way legally would 20 over, as we saw before. So the overtime budget this year, I did not add the 3.5% increase to the number. Remember, the overtime numbers are based on the last 3-year average of who's time taken off.
right, I get that. What I'm missing is, so take 3 out of the 12, there's 9 positions. From the grant funded, there's 12 total, right?
So it's 3 per shift. 3 times 4 is 12.
That's how you break it down?
1 in each
3
ladder.
per,
3 per shift. It's 4 shifts. Very minimal on each shift.
okay.
About what the savings would be for there, I've already reduced the overtime by not adding the 3.5% salary by the contract. And I also reduced about $60,000 in the training side to bring our number down. All said and done, I have to sit with the mayor 3 times this year. We cut $782,000 out of our budget. We started this budget this year with 1.7 million, and 3.5% for the salary increase for medical coverage, increase for dental coverage, and increase for pensions. So add the 1.7 million to what we had last year, and look at where we're coming in now. We're coming in probably about 700 over. That's as close as we can get without turning the lights up.
Okay, so 3 extra bodies per shift out of how many shifts a day per house?
We have 4 shifts to do, 2 days, 2 nights, 4 days. 2 10-hour days, 2 14-hour nights.
For all 4 stations. Okay.
So there aren't 9 positions just floating.
No, so
No.
each shift, each of the 4 shifts will be over by 3. But it's not part of the contract.
So for my entire life living in the city, the engines have had 3 firefighters, and the ladders have had 2. So now there's a need to add an extra firefighter for engine 1, you're saying, and 2.
This is by the SAFER grant. So in order to get awarded funding under the SAFER grant, you have to meet the NOAA or the NOFO. Basically, we have to meet a section of NFPA 1710 based on a single family house fire and what the requirements are for manpower safety. So out of that standard, I looked at how we operate, where I could fit it in to meet what they're asking for. So right now we run 2 people on a ladder company. And when you put 2 people on the roof, to cut the roof, do ventilation operations, you need somebody on campus by 17 10. By adding that 3rd person to the ladder truck, we met that. That gave us enough points that we were awarded. And the other part that we got was the RIT team. An engine company as a RIT team, rapid intervention team, to the firefighting team, has to be a 4-person company. So by what we wrote and how we approached it, we were awarded for 12 positions. Try not to confuse it with what we had before. We had 20 people over last time, the last class, and we made well out for 2.5 years, and then we're back to, managing. Always better to run strong, and the council has brought it up before for mental health reasons or people being stuck in the stations around the clock. We've had that several times during my career, to the detriment of not only our people but their families. So these 12 positions are actually 3 per shift, based on the grant requirement under 17.
I'm not questioning that, and I just wanted to know the reason why, because I'm thinking if we're gonna have those, then obviously what.
I know you're gonna go, Councilman. Unfortunately, the SAFER grant is for firefighters.
That's the reason.
Safety on the fire ground.
That's where I was going. So.
The requirement is more than 50% of their time, they have to be on fire suppression vehicles. And unfortunately, ambulances, or as we refer to as rescue people, that one is EMS. Doesn't mean they can't do EMS time. They just have to spend more than 50% of their time on fire suppression. For the 3 years that they're.
Does that include mutual aid, or does it have to be within the city?
When they serve, it has to be their position has to be on more than 50%.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be for an incident in the city.
No,
It can be for mutual aid.
on duty.
Right.
Fire
Okay.
suppression.
Yep.
How are we doing on pension funding? I'll go back to you in a sec. But the pension fund, are we healthy? That's not really part of your budget.
That's not part of my.
Okay.
Although we now have in the budget, which is what we put in. And they've been putting in consistently since the mayor's been here. Actuary, whatever the actuary requires.
Okay.
Do we have an academy scheduled for the 25th
We have
fiscal year?
people in the academy and the more than 50% complete. Actually, I have their hazmat operations exam today. They have a couple more weeks, then they come to us
Mhm.
for another 8 weeks for our city school. And then they'll be, if they survive, they'll be coming out again.
Wonderful. And they're already in the budget.
So they're in the budget at $0. What we will do, and I have a meeting tomorrow with finance and with the grant, we will be setting up an account for our expenditures and for revenue. So we'll be paying for their salaries and benefits out of submitting for reimbursements with FEMA. And that'll come back in. So none of their salary or benefits will be not in this budget. Because it's covered 100%, through the grant.
Any other additional academies other than these for the Ryder Grant?
Not right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Although if we do have vacancies in the future, we have to fill those vacancies.
Right.
But we're also restricted by the number of the academy runs. So if we would probably get up to 5, 6, 7, 8, before we would be able to get into an academy. So we have some training. Still meet the requirements for the grant.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Other questions?
Station 3. What's it called? Smith Street. Engine 2 and rescue. Would go to Smith Street on the other side, which is near St. Brendan's. So they would put, the engine and the rescue would pretty much, if they're both in service at that station, they would pretty much appear on the scene simultaneously. Pretty close. Maybe a 60-second delay, maybe with the engine. Sometimes the rescue gets there quicker at the station. They would, rescue 2 would be dispatched to Smith Street if it was in service.
It was in service and in the house.
I'm going. So it would be at the engine and the rescue at the same time. Rice Avenue. Engine 4 and rescue 4 would be dispatched. Pretty much going to be, so at the same time, there's 5 firefighters showing up at the scene at the same time.
Should they both be in service?
That's true. Yeah, again, I'm saying perfect world, everybody in service. And this is the, so engine 1, rescue 1 to Lion Avenue. They would both in service, both would show up at the same time. Engine 3. And this is at midnight.
5 out of the 7.
Well, engine, yeah, right, but
2 engines that split the center of the
yeah,
city.
they split it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to a street. Now I'm going to a street close by to the. If you notice, I pick house streets close by to where the stations are. So I was just split that. So now we go to. I would just pick Drown Parkway. Well, engine 3 and what rescue?
Rescue 1. If rescue 1's in service and in the barn, if not, it goes
but-
to rescue 4. Or rescue, and then
The time that both, so those other 3 instances I gave you, the truck and the engine, the rescue and the engine are going to go up pretty much in a matter of seconds together. But in the case of the Station 3 scenario, there's going to be a lag time. Either state, it could be either rescue 1, it could be rescue 4, it could be. Right. So the probability chances, if I was to put money on which station's going to have a rescue and the engine show up at the same time, which one wouldn't you bet on? If you were betting there, which one wouldn't you bet? Out of those 4 scenarios I gave you, which one wouldn't you put any of your money down if you were at Mohegan Sun?
What would I put?
Which one wouldn't you have put money down on that would have both the engine and the rescue shown up at the same time? Which of those scenarios I gave you?
It's impossible for us to.
Well, that's what I mean, because there's not a full-time rescue at Station 3. Okay, so there's a dispute. So from a standpoint of the residents of Ward 1, predominantly Rumford, they have their service isn't equal to or greater than any other part of the city in the perfect. Again, this is all perfect world, correct?
Councilman, if we look at all 4 districts, or actually 5 districts, 4 or 5, not 4. Well, at any given time, we can have mutual aid coming in or going out. We can't guarantee that they're always going to be in the house. And the ambulances are the busiest companies that we have. Just look at the numbers.
All right, but there is
So
a better,
they're out of service on a run more often than they're in the house waiting for a run.
but the chances are greater if you lived out in Front Heights to having the rescue and the engine showing up than you would in Rumford.
I'm not too sure about that because Ken Heights is busier than Rumford. And the center of the city is almost twice as busy as Rumford, or a little bit more than that.
I'm just
Rumford is the slowest district that we have for emergencies.
I'm just saying, I just want to, in this budget somehow, somehow, people, it was overwhelmed, the chief of staff was there and the president was there that night when we had a community meeting. Everybody, it wasn't just 2 or 3 people. The majority of people up there want feel they're not being served. I know that's not a slight against you or your men or your women. That's just, you know,
Here's what I know. Here's what I know to be true. It's perception. The perception is wrong, and can't say anything bad or good about that perception. What I can tell you is, within 4 minutes, you have a company there that's advanced life support, both equipped and same personnel for treatment within 4 minutes to every house in the city. That's our average response time. Because our engines and our ladders are ALS licensed, non-transporting ambulances with either an EMTC or an EMT paramedic on them to treat personnel. So those engines and ladders, when they show up, they're not standing there with their hands in their pocket. They are trained personnel, fully equipped, including medications and heart monitors to take care of those people. What I'm saying is, it's perception. Yes, each district has a rescue to a point. Look at the center of the city, it's actually 2 districts together, they share a rescue. So you could say the 5 district or the 1 district is not far off from the Rumford district. And I think I've said it more than once in front of the council. I could take all the ambulances and put them in the center of the city in one building and run them out of there and be just as efficient because they're always running. And we're not the only ones. Go to Providence. They're running 7 rescues. They're bringing in mutual aid more than we are. Every community is in the same boat. And it comes down to fiscally, what can we afford? I think I did what we needed to do with our budget this year, as I was asked in charge, because we're at the cap. The only way we're going to raise the cap, well, that falls under the charter. That's up to the council. That's outside of my hand.
Thank you. Anybody here in the room want to address the fire department? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So we move on to the enterprise fund, wastewater, pollution control, water utilities. Concerns from the council, budget items. I think we've talked about that. Enough. Anybody here in the public or anyone in those departments that need to indicate anything? Hearing none. Well, that concludes that section.
So at
Yes.
what point do we start making our changes that we'd like to propose? Are we there now or after the public hearing?
Well, once we close, public discussion, but would that be under the ordinance, Mr. Solicitor? It should be right now before we move on. So this would be this would be the time. We're on the areas we just discussed. Operating. Well, capital is listed. Yep. So any changes, significant changes? I mean, I don't have any from what we just went through.
No, my questions were about the number of FTEs for the fire department and the overtime for police and fire. Sounds like they need it, so I have no changes.
Councilwoman, you any changes of, I'll say significance, but any changes actually? Sure, take your time. Anyone else? At the council? Mr. Solicitor, if we do not have changes, we would just move on.
To pass the budget tonight if you didn't have any changes.
Yes, Council Vice President. That's separate from capital stuff, right? So we can still discuss capital.
I firmly believe that we need to move. I don't know if it's, I mean, I have two areas where I'd like to move so that we can take care of affirmative action. We can either take it out of human resources or we can take it out of the administration's budget. But we need to do this. We promised the community this last year. And indirectly. So I'll move. I'll move $26,000 out of Department 125 and put it into Department 410.
So under discussion, I understand what you're saying, but I don't, I'm comfortable with the current affirmative action setup. We heard from the director tonight that he was pretty satisfied with his budget. I'm not getting complaints from the community that affirmative action, EEOC, things are not being met. We had an advisory committee member who did say to us he'd like to see more help for the director, but
What I'm trying to do.
I'm not sure the director is saying that. And I don't know. It's important enough, so let's ask the director to, I can be swayed, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Pena, but,
I think you are.
well, he came up. I didn't ask him.
I always like seeing Elmo. We have a play that goes back 30-something years in basketball arenas. Should I yell at Elmo or that would be against? I should not say it.
Did you bring your whistle?
Definitely.
I don't need the whistle.
Yeah. So just to touch on that, since our last meeting, I have been doing some homework. I did speak to a gentleman at the State House on trying to recruit some internship in my office in my absence. And with that being said, I am successful in obtaining that. And again, this happened right before our meeting here. Vice President had allocated the set of funds to my budget item. So with that, I would hate to take it away from human resources or somewhere else where it's really needed. I think the mayor said it best. If I can have 1 to 2 people in my office, I'd be happy as a pig in mud. But when I first started, we did have a person, a full-time person that helped me. But I think by filling this void and having somebody come from the state's internship program, I think that would help. It's free money. It doesn't come out of my budget. It's come out of the city budget. It comes right out of state. He or she will be with me Monday through Friday. But I am grateful. I really am. It's something I've been asking for some time now. And of course, the members of the Affirmative Action Committee have also been asking because if I'm out sick or if I'm on vacation or a constituent or an employee needs to talk about, discriminatory practices, I would love for somebody to be in the office.
Do you work closely? I obviously know the answer, but do you work closely with HR director and HR department?
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir. So affirmative action, just so you know, affirmative action polices or somewhat works heavy with human resources to ensure that they are going by the policies and procedures put in place to effectively, in terms of equality, hiring people of color and women.
If you're comfortable, we made this. Last year at this time, if you remember right,
yes, sir.
We were basically thrown to this. The 5 of us were thrown to the wolves. It was, some uncharacteristic comments came from people in the community, and it was and it was gaslit, and it wasn't true about the character of the five of us up here. And you're comfortable, and I said what I would do, and I've carried it through. So if you're comfortable, and I can see the president doesn't have the fortitude to move forward with this, and you're fine with this, we will, I guess I'll, rest it. But I was not gonna have this council go through what we had to go through last year. And it wasn't you, it was, and the people know who brought these people in here. And it was uncharacteristic. And again, they know who they were. And they brought them in here and made the five of us try to be something that we weren't. So you will always have my support.
Thank you,
If
sir.
you're comfortable now,
Look,
then I'm
I got no problem funding this position. It sounds like there's definitely a need for it. Interns are great, but they come and go. Wouldn't it make more sense that if the need's there, that we put the position in now?
Well, I wasn't getting that feeling from,
I
now
wouldn't have
you're
blamed the
opening up
council
a-
president on that.
Yeah.
That was a
No.
kind of a-
But after hearing that
No.
there is absolutely a need, and not only from the director,
And
but
I'm not
others.
sure I appreciate the term fortitude. I don't know what you meant by that,
I'm
but
sorry, I used the wrong
I
word,
know
not-
sometimes you misspeak. That's okay.
Yeah.
But it seems like the need was addressed by a free.
Yeah, but those
No.
come and go. I work with interns all the time. They come and go.
Well,
I would rather
with the-
have
with
somebody
the-
in place.
With the shot, so where in HR are they going to lose $26,000? What are we going to take out?
How many open positions? Don't planning hasn't opened. That
Not my
sounds like it's
idea. If
more of a
somebody
grant
wants to
writer
take it
than-
out, where are you going to take it from?
I had the mayor's, I had ideas, I had mayor's office, again,
How does that work though, Frank?
that's the problem.
So it's just, in my mind, it's just reallocating, and then it just lowers the bottom line number, and then that office has to reallocate their funds however they need to work their budget. It wouldn't be our decision to how they would reallocate the end number in their department. That would be something that they would have to figure out.
Will it be a position that they will fill? We gave them 3 public works in the past and they just didn't, well, one went from Parks and they made it a carpenter. So,
Well, that's the problem we run with any trying to.
Through the
assist any
chair, may I
department.
ask?
Yes, Councilman Fogarty.
I'd like to ask Alma a question. Alma, is your trust fully with this new availability to have these interns work in favor of what you need for the office as a going forward movement that would work, and you want to try it, or do you want us to make a move? Well, that's a tough question to ask you. Do you think we need to hire an assistant in your office, or would you like to try the entrepreneur program of the state and see how that works out?
Yeah, Councilman Fogarty, that's a good question. So this program is new to me. I know City Clerk Jill Seppa had used an internship, a person, and he was very satisfied with the internship. So I would like to try it to see. Again, it's free money. But I do agree with Councilman Lawson. I mean, they do come and go. But if I get somebody solid to kind of just be a backbone when I'm not in the office, why not use it if it's free and attainable to me?
I think an internship then turns into a part-time hire if that's something that
Well, that's good.
works
right?
out.
So that's good. We could hire somebody that you like, that you get along with, that will work in the office. So we try it for free, and if we have to move on from there, we go from there. That's my opinion only. You're working there daily. And you know the comings and goings and what's needed for the public and for the employees, and very valuable asset you have. So to have another set of eyes, body, bones, person, I agree with you. I agree with the council. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, is satisfy that.
So
You're
the,
picking up on that. So I'd rather lean on you and your expertise in that office. Do you think it would work to have the intern for now and wait on the hire?
Yeah, it would be, because again, this intern will be doing a lot of the administrative work. He or she will not be seeing some of the confidential stuff I'll be using. I mean, that's down the line if I do get a solid part-time person maybe in a year, or maybe, a full-time person, who knows? But some of the heavy stuff, I'll be dealing with the investigations and the meetings, but this person will be doing like my minutes, the agendas, administrative duties.
But I think we're all saying it's the same thing, including Council VP. I think your intent is a good one to help the office. Let's try it the way the director feels he can try it. And if it evolves into a job, well, we'll hire another person at that time. But well, I'm open to a motion if you want to. If anyone wants to move or just leave it alone. You okay with that, Council VP? And
Case scenario, mid-year, we.
We'll
could
find
take
out.
some Money from, we could take money from capital or somewhere to, cover that.
Okay, let's try it. Let's move on. Thank you, Council Vice President, members of the council. Thank you, Mr. Director.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Other areas of change, or I don't have any.
Who oversees the dispatcher communication center? Who's in charge of that budget?
Chief, you want to come?
Thank you, Chief. Sorry, I didn't ask when you were up here earlier. Thank you. So the council for probably 3 consecutive budgets had budgeted for additional full-time employees and dispatchers, and those were not filled. We're currently recently at 11, correct?
We are at 11. We are still at 11.
11th
Budget
person.
Still shows for the 11, but they just contracted with the steelworkers union, and the current CBA, we can now do up to 8 part-time dispatchers. And that's the new program. We might be faced with 2 people leaving in January. I don't have that in stone. Again, unless we see a piece of paper in front of me that says, I'm leaving, we can't go by just hearsay. But we might have to actually hire for some full-timers to fill to the 11 and then get to the 8 part-timers.
So the 8 part-timers, sorry, so 45,000 is going to cover 8 part-timers? Is that accurate?
That's what they're projecting for right now. And salaries, I don't know if we accounted in salaries for workforce.
Last year, it looks like the need, because we weren't funding full-time, and I think probably at a minimum, a couple of part-time, perhaps, there was an increase in your overtime line item, right? And then there's.
We went back and forth with losing people, using a lot of part-timers.
Right, burnout, the hours, not being able to man,
And it just keeps going.
right,
Yes.
very busy.
So I think once we get to the 8 part-timers, and I believe the way it's set up, I would have to go back, but I don't want to misspeak. But those part-timers will be committed to certain shifts, certain days, and that'll be their
Set
minimum
scheduled.
they have to do in order to provide that relief for the service.
And you're thinking the 45 just doesn't seem like a reasonable number for 8 people.
Remember, we're talking part-time employees, the hourly wage isn't going to be as high as the salaried personnel that we have.
Right, but it is 24 hours, right? You have 4.
So they do,
shifts or
they
3
follow the
shifts?
police department's shift schedule,
Mhm.
which is 3 8-hour shifts.
Yeah. No 12-hour shifts in that department?
So they can do 2 shifts in a row, and then at most 4 hours after that. Just the 2 shifts. And then they have to go home. We have to put somebody else in the seat.
Oh, like a 16-hour
Yeah,
max,
16 hours is
and then
the
they have
max,
to, right,
But we don't want them. We like doing maybe a full shift, an 8 and a 4.
right.
But there are dispatchers that do it, and sometimes, especially during peak vacation time in the summer, they get stuck there.
What does the shifts look like in terms of personnel? Is it, 3, 2, 3,
It's
3,
supposed
2?
to be 3, 3, and 2 the third shift. But we don't backfill all the time for day shifts if we can't get somebody.
You mandate
The part-timers might actually alleviate that.
like a split shift, you mean? Like a in
So
between?
if somebody took sick day, let's say during the day shift, we can go down to the 2. And if we try to hire a dispatcher, but nobody will take it, we're not going to order somebody to do that shift.
You wouldn't mandate somebody to stay and you would leave the whole city with 2 dispatchers.
Correct.
Do you think that that's safe?
Do it at night.
Right, but I mean, doesn't mean that it's safe, right?
Agreed. But remember, both dispatchers have access to everything for police and fire. And it's literally a team effort when they're in there, whether it's 2 or 3. Or some large incidents, we've had up to 4 people and we put a police officer or a firefighter there.
Yeah.
So
But there isn't typically the officer in charge. Is he usually on site?
the officer in charge is in the police station, I believe.
So they have to call the officer in charge if they have a call come through that they want to speak to them.
Correct. So the new phone tree does go to the police station. If it goes to the dispatcher first, they refer it to the police station.
Right. Are they still manning the doorbell that's at the police station too? Okay, a lot going on for 2 or 3 people in a big city. All right.
Sounds like you want to hire more.
Well, it's a moot point, right? You can put the money in, but you can't make them do it. So, and that's the problem I have with the budget, is you can give as much money as you want to try to help, because I know those people suffer over there. Those dispatchers are overworked, they're burned out, they're not happy, but they're doing the job because they love the city that they work in and that they love their job. But it's not, I wouldn't call it a very great work environment. I know I wouldn't feel like it would be a great work environment if I was there.
With the new center, it's a very nice environment. and you
Well,
do as much as you
aesthetically,
for
it
their
can be
comfort
nice.
while they're working.
Aesthetically, it can be.
And like you said, if I don't order that for that person for a day shift, and we have to follow the CBA. I'm speaking. So not only do we do the CBA, but by not ordering that person to work that day shift and them running with 2, you're not impacting the life speed. You're not ordering somebody. The whole order game becomes the rabid game show.
No, yeah, that's different because nobody wants to be held against their will,
and
right?
Once it starts, it just cycles. It's cyclic, and it just keeps
Yeah,
going.
of course.
So
of
we try
course.
to avoid that. But if something goes down where you get an active shooter, you got structure fire, we get people over there to back them up when we need.
Right.
But I think the 8 part-timers that are in the new collective bargaining agreement, if it's done correctly and they negotiate it and they're on board, so we'll see how that works. And when it comes to quality of life and having more people in there, it might be a good balance to start with.
Necessary.
But we need to get there.
Right, exactly.
It's a new process and
Yeah.
hiring is dismal at best.
Well, that's
Right.
what I was gonna say. Do you really think you're gonna be able to get these 8 part-time people? We have problems getting police officers. That's what I mean. So realistically, what are the chances? How do you think we're gonna?
I think the next hiring, I've talked to the HR director, and the next hiring we do is full-time. Because I think our list is exhausted. We do a full-time hiring first. And then once we have that list, and they're waiting for an opening, a vacancy for full-time, they get their feet wet, they start getting in. It's almost kind of like that internship.
I think that that whole process of a list and exhausting the list, that's probably 3 years old, and those people more than likely aren't even interested in a position any longer.
We
It
definitely have to go back out.
is antiquated.
For 1 year.
Right, it doesn't.
But you can't do it by the
Because our people are looking for jobs, even though sometimes they're not applying. Some people I hear that they have to wait because the list and the board didn't meet, so it wasn't, their list wasn't checked. Or, I don't.
believe is meeting regularly now. We talked to the HR director. No, we've had that conversation.
Yeah, I think recently it was canceled, but, I'm sure an executive decision can be made by the director to move things along. I know from the public and hearing for people who have applied for positions or tried to apply for positions, it doesn't seem as simple as applying for a position and getting an interview and
we have a process in which we have to follow, and there's
No, for
there's
sure.
laws and there's rules, and I would love to streamline it. Trust me.
Right. Well,
Our
that's
hiring
my,
process took 9 months for the fire department.
right. And some things it does need to take a lot longer. And then there are other positions that don't require 9
They're
months.
just as important. They have to meet
No, I
Justice
get it.
Investigation Service
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
So they're public safety officers, whether people think they are or not, and they're our first line of defense.
Right. But that has to be part of job description, right? I'm not going to apply for a job that requires a doctorate degree and I don't have a doctorate degree. That I have to look for try to acquire one. So I'm pretty sure if the description is laid out exactly what a person needs, that they're going to do the steps that they need prior to an interview. They don't even get an interview. So, all right, well, thank you. I'd love to try to help your staff in that building a lot more, but let's see how the eight part-time positions work out and how long that takes.
If you know anyone that is looking to apply,
I know
for
a
that
lot of
position,
people who
please-
have
as soon as
applied
it
to
comes
apply.
out, we want as many applicants as we can. Freaking
Even the police, I had a couple of
thing with
people
police.
who I sent over to get interviewed.
Trying to take some of my applicants.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. So I think we've gone through this. We've had other meetings. We've had individual meetings here with administration. We can address some other issues in capital, but I think it's time to try to adopt this budget. Is there what is the pleasure of this council?
So I'll go ahead and, well, we don't have to start with 5, right? Because we can do them in order. Correct? Yeah, instead of going out of order. So I'll let the clerk.
Yes, Madam Clerk, if you want to read the first ordinance.
Ordinance of the Council of the City of East Providence ordering the assessment and collection of property tax on the rateable real estate and tangible personal property. Summary, Section 16-50, entitled Assessment of Article 9, entitled Property Tax on Rateable Real Estate and Tangible Personal Property and Excise Tax on Registered Motor Vehicles and Trailers.
Again, these are pretty perfunctory.
This is just the annual assessment ordinance. You'll note that section 16-50 is entitled registered motor vehicles and trailers, which we don't tax anymore. You'll get a fix for that at some point after the budget is done, because that's what the current ordinance title is. This is just a former setting the assessment based upon the proposed. This is the second passage.
Motion to approve as read.
So before we continue with the motions, it is a public hearing. Anyone here to comment, any questions, comments either on the council or on the public? Again, this was discussed before. This is down for second passage. Anyone here that would like to comment? Hearing none, a motion has been made by Councilwoman Souza to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? The ayes have that. 5-0. Thank you. Next item.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to borrow funds in anticipation of taxes.
Same thing.
Second passage.
Second passage. Anyone here under public hearing wants to discuss this? Hearing none, what is your pleasure? Close the public hearing. What is your pleasure, council? Motion to approve
Second.
by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. 5-0. Next item.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to borrow funds in anticipation of bonds.
Motion to
Public
approve.
hearing is motion to approve by Councilman Lawson under public hearing. Any discussion, comments, questions? Is there a second? I'll close the public hearing. Motion by Councilman Lawson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. 5-0. Next item.
Ordinance of the Council of the City of East Providence appropriating $6,118,625 for the FY 2025 capital budget and the FY 2025 to 2029 capital improvement program.
I'd like to make some adjustments to this one.
Sure, under public hearing, please continue, Councilman.
So I want to add the 3 school items that we had discussed previously. $1 million towards Oldham for the roof, $500,000 towards the energy management system for the school buildings, and $1.5 million to the intercoms needed throughout the schools. And to counter that $3 million addition, I'd propose that we remove the allocation for ladder 3, the allocation for rescue 2, the allocation for the 3,500 trucks, the allocation for the dump truck, the allocation for the stump grinder, and the allocation for the field groomer. And that would balance out. I believe these schools should be the priority over equipment. And if funding for the schools comes through, we can always reallocate this capital funding. But I don't think we should be passing a budget that doesn't take care of the building that the tiny town east of pre-K are in. And we already mentioned school safety with the intercoms and energy management system. So I would like to make a motion to make those changes.
Can I just ask for a clarification? The second item, which was $500,000, what was that for?
Energy management system. They call it EMS, but I don't want people to get confused with emergency management. It's basically the energy controls for the buildings.
Almost like HVAC. So under discussion, I think these are,
Would that
Hang on
take
one
into, oh, I'm sorry.
all right, you can go.
You were going
Go ahead.
under All Avenue School. I mean, we replaced Myron J. Francis boiler last year. All Avenue School is having an issue with their heating system. Would that fall into your category that you were just talking about? All right.
You have a number?
Maybe
We may be getting some extra money.
that's what I mean.
That could probably take care of it.
When the money comes back from the, we have to reach out to the school, we'll have to reach out to the school department. And then when the money comes back at the 2024 budget into capital, we can then do it at that time.
There may be money left over from it.
Yeah, we got,
That's what I was
yeah, that's true.
So what I was going to add under discussion is, I don't want to lose the opportunity to service all the needs within the city, whether it's trucks and vehicles on the city side, equipment on the school side. So as long as there's some guarantee that we can try to reappropriate, because I can tell you that, and I've had discussions as late as today. As you know, I'm on the school bond issue committees. And I said to the mayor that, it really is the council's feeling that if there is money left over from the school bond, that money stays within schools and school needs. And I'm not speaking for the mayor. We're not at that point yet, but he told me that he agrees, and he was already starting to word with the solicitor, and they called me today to put that in writing, that there will be an ordinance in writing. And I can tell you that unless something changes in the next couple of days with the school bond meetings, but I think they're pretty well done, that there is a little over $3 million left from the high school bond issue. And that's a good thing. That committee has been worked very hard to save money and not just spend the entire bond issue blindly. There were things that they took out of the school, and then they put them back when they thought they could afford it. They were very good about watching the dollars. And after all is said and done, you know, anyone who's worked on a house knows that you might always have a little project here or there. But after all is said and done, they don't need to do anything more major to the high school. So they will turn back. It's a little over $3 million and maybe 3.2, but let's call it $3 million. That's a lot of money. Now, under law, as I understand it, maybe the solicitor can add to this, the city is free at that point to do what we want with that money. It does not have to go just for schools. But I am telling you that we will have an agreement in writing that says that $3 million will be put in an account for nothing but schools. And the good thing is it will be put in an interest earning account. Right now, it's sitting in this school state bond account getting 0 interest. So there's $3 million just sitting there. We make this change. I don't know what the interest is on $3 million, but that's a pretty good amount of money. We don't have to rush out tomorrow and spend the $3 million. So when Orlo says, hypothetically, we need a boiler or any other school, you know, we will be able to, what the mayor has said he would like to do is have a whole oversight for this process, a council representative, school department representative, public representative, and the superintendent of schools and the school committee would kind of have the last say as to what is needed. We don't want them to, you know, willy-nilly go out and buy. Okay, council would have the last say based on, but the ordinance, it would be written to say not without input from the,
As written, as proposed.
as proposed, yeah,
Advisory.
right.
That board would be advisory, but the council would have the last say.
See, I would be opposed to a board. We got a facilities director. They can tell us the needs. We don't need more bureaucracy. It's just government.
But we can change the ordinance. I mean, if we want to just leave it to the administrators, that's fine.
Just put it in an account.
But it was an
When the
attempt
school-
that I thought would involve us, you know, because you
Well,
all,
we got to vote on the allocation of the funds
Yeah.
over 50,000.
we can take that out and just have it the administrators. If you're happy with that, that's fine.
Just
but-
the school facility director comes to us and say, we need a boiler. This is how much it costs.
Oh, that was the point, just to get their input. So that 3 million plus will be there just for school. And I, you know, want to be fair also. Nobody supports schools more than me. I worked there for 30 years and I'm still doing stuff with the schools. So
Support you.
I've been there for day one. I don't know if they support me.
Well, yeah, you get a paycheck, right?
I used to.
Pension?
I used to. So, you know, we also want to answer the public that says we need our streets plowed and we have infrastructure within the city.
And we've been buying plenty of vehicles.
We have, and we've been supporting schools. They've gotten every budget they've asked for the past several years. It wasn't always the case, and they should. They should. So I'm okay with this. I'm just concerned with, you know, cart before the horse. You know, can we wait and get this? You know.
I made the motion, Council President.
Second.
We just have the numbers again, so we make sure they're accurate.
Yes.
1 million for the roof at Oldham. 500,000 for the energy management system.
Yep, go ahead.
And 1.5 million for the communication intercom systems throughout the school buildings.
That's 3 million, right?
Yep. And to counter that,
Know what you're striking, so we don't, yeah.
ladder 3, 2,123,625.
Ladder 3, yep.
Rescue 2, which is 475,000. I think it was 3 trucks, 190,000.
2 trucks.
2 trucks, I apologize.
90.
Yep. Dump truck at 95,000. Stump grinder at 80,000.
Yeah.
And the field room at 30, which I believe is like 2.9 change when it's all added up.
9,000.
2.9 million.
Million.
Those cuts will
Right, yeah.
offset the addition. And again, if the 3 million comes available, if it could be used for this, we just
So
reallocate
you,
capital.
you are in agreement that if that 3 million comes to fruition.
I'd
we
rather
can-
see it sit there for next
We
budget
can
season,
replace those
so
things
that
that you're taking out.
we could have that conversation, yeah, because I'd rather see it sit there for next budget, so they're not cutting teachers and social work
So under
that are needed.
public hearing, I see the fire chief had his finger up.
Excuse 1 second before he,
Yep.
last week it was told by Mr. Brown that we're probably, and Malcolm can certify this, we're probably, this present budget, probably anywhere from $2 to $2.5 million surplus will be coming back our way. No, I mean, leftover, I mean, going from budget year 24, right now, we're running probably like $2 million will be going into capital.
That I'd have to look into. I have not done. I know we talked about, we were thinking that a lot of that could come from the high school bond. But that's changed a little.
What we do know is that the mayor, in his opening conversation to address the council with the budget, was that in 2026, capital funds would go to supplant the budget itself, and there would be no capital budget. So I think we have to be very careful with the budget as a whole, right? Because with all of the bonds, it's great that we're going to get money back from the bond, but that is still money that we borrowed up. It'd be nice to put that money as a payment down on debt services to lower the debt services, because it's, Malcolm, you have it's 6.5 plus million that we have between the two bonds. How much are we paying for the bonds? So we have the high school bond, and then we have the middle school.
The total amount of the bond would be $20 million.
Okay, even better, even better. So there's going to be, so I'm okay with what we have going on, because I have to be, right? But there are going to be, this council and future councils going to need to make some serious adjustments to each department, whether we like to or not,
We should have really.
because it's just not going to be sustainable for the city with the debt. And I think it's amazing with the infrastructure and all the stuff that we're doing. We have these apartment houses that are coming up, these, the Christina Place we have, but I don't see where the revenue is getting higher to cover what we need. And it's certainly not, we're not getting more public safety personnel in to cover the influx of hundreds of people that are going to be moving into the city or currently have moved into the city. So have a lot of hard decisions, and there are people that are not going to be happy at all. But at the end of the day, the livelihood of this city, so it doesn't go back to a budget commission, is going to have to start sooner than later.
Fire chief.
And I think next year we should have a subcommittee on budget that works throughout the process. So that way we can talk about these needed cuts in the future.
I mean, again, hindsight, I totally agree with you, and I think what was put down by the past council as far as dates, and you can feel it here now. With us not getting that budget on August 20th, we really didn't do the city of East Providence any justice. We really didn't do anything. This whole process has been rammed down everybody's throats. And it's not what the people of East Providence want. I am not comfortable. I'm going to vote for this budget because, but as Councilwoman Souza said, you got to take your belt and we got to go on a diet.
And that's why there was,
Yeah, and that's and I wanted to do it, but I felt I could feel, I'm a pretty good card player, and being born in a political family, as my late grandfather would tell me, he taught me this in this city, 3, and I didn't feel I had 3 tonight, so I had to go that way. But you know what?
so that's why there was concern about, this extra $3 million and tightening the belt.
But I mean,
But, I mean, the schools have gotten boilers, they've gotten everything. The superintendent of schools was very satisfied with this budget, and we're still ready to help. But the question was raised, so I want the fire chief to comment on the public hearing.
Thank you, Council.
Yes.
Chair. In respect to the tower ladder and the rescue, two things. One, we discussed the tower ladder last time I was here. We know the age of the vehicle that we have. We did get it used. It's the last part of the frontline fleet that needs to be replaced. It's 20 years old or more. Right now, just to build an engine or a ladder, you're looking at 2 to 3 years. To build a tower ladder, you're looking at 3 to 4 years to get it built. And then within that time frame, the costs just keep going up. We just took receipt of engine 4 and engine 5. It took 2 years to build, and we paid $940,000 each truck. Right now, those same trucks, same manufacturer, are 1.4 each. Every time we push something off, the money goes up. I've tried to institute an apparatus program. When it comes to ambulances, they're good for 4 years in service, 4 years in reserve, and then get rid of them because they're literally trashed by then. And we can show you some of the reserves we've taken out of service over the last couple of years. And for a rescue, it's right now 2.5 years if you custom build. I scored one with Greenwood, who started the process when they saw the writing on the wall with the chipsets and the trouble getting trucks. So they put placeholders in the factory. And we all battle over that right now. I have a rescue coming in December for this year's capital. That was greatly needed. And the next year, we basically need a rescue every year because we have four full-time. Yes, one's not 24 hours, but it's still full-time. It's 42. And for us to run them 4 and out, we need to follow that process. If we don't, the people we're transporting, some of you have seen some of the trucks we've had over the years. Not new, but they don't last. And the amount of cost it takes to repair them, it comes to the tail wags the dog, shall we say. We spend more doing that than we do having a program and doing 4 and out or 10 and out when it comes to an engine or ladder.
I remember when I first got on the council last term, and council ordered a new fire truck. And I said, oh, it's great, go see it next week. And, he said, oh, he's 2 years away.
Just got them.
And I,
Literally.
since learned that process. So that's why I'm hesitant to support this now when right on the horizon, we have over $3 million to put to these school projects.
And again, if it comes through, we can reallocate.
You wouldn't commit to replacing this stuff. You said we'll have a
conversation.
We'll have a
yes.
conversation. That's not a commitment.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councilman.
I'm against supporting it too, because the equipment's needed now. The agreement was made, the fire apparatus goes up, the truck goes up. I understand the school. I understand the school. The time for the school's needs is with the 3 million that the mayor has said will come to the schools when they need it. The stuff that the DPW needs and the fire chief needs is a mandatory now need. Nobody's without heat right now in the schools. Superintendent was satisfied with their budget. I think this is a haste reaction, but that's my opinion.
This is from the school department.
Okay, well,
This isn't anybody just trying to do something.
But they'll get there.
anybody's trying
So
to do anything.
let's have the vote.
Speaking, please. I didn't say anybody was trying to do anything shady. I said it hastily. That's all I said. I think it's hastily.
I've been talking about this for months with the
Let-
administration.
Let him finish.
These items were brought up by the superintendent and Mr. Forbes.
And
And
also in emails back and forth.
And they're going
Months
to get
ago.
them. But why at the expense of the community's fire service
You're holding
and other
the
things?
fire department hostage, in my
How
opinion.
am I holding them hostage? I said, once that money becomes allocated, we'll talk about reallocating it.
Well, I don't want to talk about reallocating it, but you guys seem to already have your mind made up. So let's
So we have a motion on the floor. Was there a second? Yes, Councilwoman Souza seconded it. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Fogarty,
Nay.
Councilman Watson,
Aye, these schools need this.
Council Vice President Rego,
Aye.
Councilwoman Sousa.
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Nay, the schools need this and they'll get them in a couple of weeks, but the vote is 3-2 in favor of the motion. Thank you. Next item.
Ordinance of the Council of the City of East Providence appropriating $221,692,101 for the support of the city government for the fiscal year ending October 31st, 2025.
Under a public hearing, anyone wishes to speak, either on the council or here in the room? I'll ask once again, anyone here to speak, another perfunctory act of the budget process. Close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Hearing none. Motion, I'll ask one more time. Is there a motion? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Motion.
There's no,
Council fails to adopt the budget.
right, there's no budget.
The mayor's budget. They failed to adopt a budget by the deadline, the mayor's budget.
Mhm.
That's by the end of the fiscal year.
We didn't make any changes.
I understand, I'm just.
No, I'm just saying, we didn't make any changes, so in theory, we didn't make any changes.
Next item, please.
Announcement of final public hearing on FY 2024 budget, October 22nd, 2024. if necessary.
Question we have is that put this date down for next week. Anticipation of any changes tonight. Not next
22nd, was it?
22nd, next the last date that technically pass the budget. So either we put this back on the agenda as is, or you just fail to act. This budget.
Well, it's in theory, what this is, I'm asking this question, this is in theory, just like the governor not signing the bill into law or similar to
Different
that.
because there's an affirmative act of the legislature.
But-
We don't have an affirmative act here. We have a chart
Okay.
that says you fail to act, then it becomes the
And
mayor's
it
budget.
becomes, then it'd be automatic.
As long as that's clear, that's what your intention.
I'm just saying, that's,
Yeah, right.
I'm just letting it explain,
Oh, it's a good question.
I'm just letting it come, let everybody know that's explain it.
So
So I.
It's not exactly like the legislature,
But
because the
it-
governor, the legislature has an act of passing something. The governor can let it become law without the signature.
This budget would become law without us passing.
Because the charter says if you don't adopt the budget by the end of 7 days before the fiscal year, the mayor's budget then becomes after the budget.
I just wanted everybody.
Any other?
By the way, I want the council to understand that. 'Cause
Well, that's the reason why I wanted everybody.
Yeah, we need to understand it, so you can't come back and say we have a problem with the budget.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted him to clarify.
Yeah. Anyone here has any comments on that? Is there a motion for this?
There's no.
We don't need a,
My question,
so-
you're not interested in setting another public hearing, I guess.
does not, we have a regular meeting, right, the 22nd, so there will not be another. So therefore, there will not be another public hearing. The mayor's budget will be adopted
By default.
as he proposed by default, and there is a regularly scheduled meeting Tuesday, October 22nd. It just won't have a budget public hearing.
Correct. Well,
Right.
you could have.
I mean, no one wants one, so I assume we're okay. All right, next item, please.
It's never happened. Not from our, let me just.
Sure.
But, 'cause I've never had this situation, but I think. Part of sense, correct? All right.
Yeah, the council's choosing not to take a formal vote on whether they approve or deny the budget. They're going to let it just pass as is.
Well, it's a form of approval.
Well, I mean, right, but it is
It's
what it is.
non-action.
It's a non-action. It's not an
Yeah,
approval.
you just let it
it's
go,
not a
right.
disapproval. It's, it's like.
I understand it. It just has I just want to make sure that everyone understands it. I want to confer with the finance director that we're all on the same page.
Again, that's why I asked.
I
that
understand.
question.
But this is the first time it's happened in my tenure here, so that's all.
So
Learn something every day.
Thank you. Next item, please.
So anyway, so we're not putting it on, we're just.
Correct. We are not putting it on.
Resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds, excuse me, to hire outside legal counsel sponsor.
Motion to approve.
Watson.
Second.
Motion to approve and second. There will be discussion. Any comments?
No.
Is there any
So, I mean,
direction as to why this is being?
Yes, we need legal representation after what happened in executive session, after the mayor withholding the money from the businesses for the direct grants. I think it's time that we have our own legal representation on certain matters.
and, I mean, I've always been a supporter of this, and then tonight hearing that the the assistant city solicitor could become a full-time
Will.
employee. I mean, that
Will become a full-time employee.
will become a full-time employee. That just, you know,
So how does that work if it's appointment? So
Yeah.
Not an appointment then? So it's an at-will, full-time employee?
Mr. Dias used to be a full-time employee of.
Yeah, I'm just
employee of the city,
clarifying the
so, yeah,
question. It's a
yeah.
full-time as,
Well, it's full-time or not, I don't know. It's
Right.
advertised as full-time. I don't know. I'm not involved in
it's
this.
still at will.
that was when that was a different form of government. That's when the city manager reported to the city council who had the solicitors. Now it's a different. It's changed. I mean, it's not an apple. It's an
Right.
apple versus orange scenario in form of government. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely supporting.
So on that question of monies, I think it was also demonstrated tonight that it may save money. I don't know, we'll see. But we spent more money under the prior process.
That's negotiable. I mean, the.
Yeah, it's negotiable.
The assistant city solicitor had been our city solicitor
Right.
for multiple terms. He performed at a high level. We don't know who, there's different grades of attorneys, so he just happened to be a higher end.
So it's not something I will support. Obviously, the votes are here to support it, but I have to get my opinion out. I don't, the mayor's gift card program, we shot that down. So I don't need a lawyer to investigate anything. It got stopped. So why?
They're still
Hang on,
pushing it.
Let me finish. Why are we going to spend, what's the amount of this, for this position? Whatever, well, it's got to come from somewhere. It's got to be in a,
We have 70 in our budget.
okay, so if we have money to spend, there are other areas in the city that I prioritize. We have girls in the city looking for lights at their field. All the boys have them, the girls don't. So there's some monies there, and we can add this. And I have not had any problems getting legal advice. Some of you have mentioned, and I understand that, you want ordinances written up. We've always gotten them. We have a staff, Robin and others, who have been good. We're going to have competing attorneys. This is going to be interesting. But anyway, there's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Councilman Fogarty. Councilman Lawson.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Nay. The motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Next item.
Move to adjourn.
Hey. Yes, second.
Yankees are losing, I heard.
They're winning.
They're losing. All in favor of adjournment? Aye.